So I just finished Ghost of Tsushima, which is a game where you play as a samurai fighting to stop the Mongol invaders in the Japanese island of Tsushima. While drawing the main character of this game, I thought of an idea where instead of talking about how I draw the character, I will instead talk about my experience with the game. Because the reason why I want to draw this character in the first place is because I enjoyed playing the game. Now, I am an experienced gamer. Although I'm not very skilled in playing video games, I do enjoy playing a lot of them. And this game is really fun. It makes you feel like you're in a cool samurai movie with amazing visuals, an engaging story, and a great soundtrack that immerses you into the world of feudal Japan. And that opening scene with the title of the game was epic. Now I will admit, a lot of the joy I feel when playing this game does come from my love in watching anime. When playing this game, I am reminded of all the samurai anime and cartoons I watched like Samurai Champloo, Demon Slayer, and even Samurai Jack. Especially because there are a lot of combat moves in this game that looks very cool, but are not physically possible for a person to do in real life. Like, cutting 3 people that are 10 meters apart in less than a second is superhuman. But it doesn't matter because it's cool and I feel cool doing it. So, about the story. You play as Jin Sakai, a samurai who wants to protect his people, fight against the Mongol forces with his uncle Lord Shimura. The game starts with his uncle leading an army of samurai to fend off the Mongol invaders, led by the main baddie, Kota Khan, which I also like to mention is modeled and voiced by the guy who played Attila the Hun in the Night at the Museum movie.
Do you surrender?
So the samurai army tries to stop the Mongols by attacking them head-on with honor and bravery, which resulted to their many deaths, with the main character almost dying and his uncle captured by the enemy. Thus sets the main drive of the first act of the story, where Jin needs to find a way to free his uncle. Now I don't want to describe too much detail, at least anything past the first few hours of gameplay, because the story is good and the characters are all well voice acted with interesting interactions. And I don't want to spoil any of that in case you guys are interested in playing the game. I will mention though, the overall theme of the game, which made me invest a lot into the character of Jin Sakai, which is his struggle to maintain his samurai code, to be honorable, to face problems head-on like a warrior, and not to fight cowardly. What made this story interesting is how Jin is seeing how the old samurai way of doing things, like facing every single enemy head-on, might not be the best thing to do. I mean, he tried that in the start of the game and he almost died because of it. Jin feels like he is forced to find other ways to gain an advantage over the enemy, using tactics that breaks his samurai code, like killing enemies behind their back, doing surprise attacks, and even using poison darts. Throughout the game, Jin's journey eventually leads him to become the legend known as the Ghost. And all the tactics he used on the enemies reflects on his character, and everyone around him, including his uncle, started treating him differently because of it. And another thing I love about this game is the optional storylines with the other side characters. I was worried that it was going to be another boring interaction where the character just gives you an excuse to fight an enemy in this area, save some people here, or retrieve a random item in this location. And to be honest, in terms of actual gameplay, it still kinda is. But what makes each mission so engaging is that the side character travels with you throughout the whole mission, and they all have interesting personalities, backgrounds, clear motivations of what they want, and conflicts which reflects to your character. All of these characters have great qualities and greater flaws. Like, some of the side characters are introduced to us by the main character as great legendary warriors who won many difficult battles. But throughout every mission, you begin to see that these legends are not perfect. They feel guilt, regret, sadness, anger, and they make mistakes. For example, you have a samurai lady who is obsessed with the revenge for the death of her family, an old archery master who has a rogue student that taught the enemy how to use the bow, and a warrior monk who wants to fight but the other monks are against fighting the Mongols. I felt a stronger connection with these characters because a lot of games that I've played before, the characters just does everything perfectly with no consequences or hard decisions. I like to see characters that has flaws, that feels emotions and struggle because that's the human experience. Of course, there are more things to this story I'd like to discuss, like the plot during Act 2 and 3, but those are obviously spoilers, so I won't be talking about any of that. Visuals. So, how does the game look? It looks good. Everything as a whole looks great as you expect from a game that has great visuals. You have highly detailed character models with great animations and fun little details like their clothes swaying in the wind and sweat coming down their faces. The world feels alive with highly detailed environments filled with vibrant colors, particle effects like falling leaves from the trees, and also like how the tall grass moves with the wind. The environments are also filled with a lot of old Japanese architectures like temples, torii gates, and that big Buddha statues. I mean, this game has a lot of attention to detail on how the world of feudal Japan looks like. Though I'm not sure how truly accurate the world is, my knowledge of Japanese culture is all based on what I see in anime, but based on that knowledge, everything looks good. Another thing I like about this game is the customization. Whatever version of samurai you want to be, whether it's a warrior covered in armor, a ronin wearing a straw hat, or a fighter with more ninja-like features, this game gives you a lot of options to how you want the character to look like. Of course, half the time when you're playing this game, you'll be slashing like a maniac, killing all the enemies with precision blows. You can also see when you're cutting enemies with your sword, the blood actually follows through with the swings. The combat is very fun and exciting, but I will admit it did give me some time to understand the rhythm of the fight. Because it's not like the Batman games or the Spider-Man games where in normal difficulty you can pretty much win every fight by pressing the punch button. In this game, you have to create openings by breaking your target's defenses before doing any significant damage. Because everyone in this game can block your basic attacks, except for the archers. They're pretty much useless against your sword in close range. What I do like about the combat in this game is how you have to think about how you're fighting each enemy. Because the one thing you have to do before you approach each enemy is you have to change one of 4 stances. Generally speaking, there are 4 types of enemies in this game. There are the sword guys, the shield guys, the spear guys, and the big guys. And before you attack them, you need to switch your character to a specific stance in order to fight them. It's quite simple to understand. It's kind of like playing rock, paper, scissors while you're fighting. You just have to switch to the proper stance before fighting each enemy, but under the pressure of fighting multiple people with different weapons, it does become quite a challenge. Now, fighting 10 people at the same time is great, but the one-to-one battles is where the fighting in this game is at its best. And I'm so glad there are more battles like this in the game outside of the main story missions, because I really like how each fight has the 2 characters stare at each other preparing to draw their swords, creating this moment of dramatic tension. Also, these fights are much more difficult, especially when you encounter your first one-to-one duel, even though it's similar to how you fight the normal enemies where you need to block, dodge, and attack in certain moments. The enemies you fight in the one-to-one duels are relentless. They have a lot more unblockable attacks, which forces you to learn their attack patterns. There are even enemies that can combo 3 unblockable attacks in a row, which means the only way you can avoid damage reliably is to tease your opponent to start the combo, and then immediately retreat back by rolling backwards to avoid all 3 attacks. Of course, the fights does get more manageable later in the game, as you unlock more skills to deal with enemies, like being able to counter-attack while you dodge, or gain more energy as you attack so you can heal during battle. Especially unlocking skills against fighters with swords, because that's pretty much most of the enemies you'll be fighting in this game. Learning to fight in this game is a bit tricky, because you need to learn the timings of the opponent's combos and studying the animation to look for openings for attacks, but once you get that down, it really makes you feel like a badass samurai.
You have killed men in many countries to live, but here, you die.
One extra thing I really appreciate as a creative person playing this game is that this game has photo mode. which is a feature that freezes the game and allows you to position a camera in the environment to take some cool shots. While you're freezing the game, you can change the weather, the time of day, add particle effects, and even add some filters to the photo. It's fun to play around with this feature to get some cool shots of the characters in motion. I even use this feature to help me get some easy photo references for my drawing. Of course, Ghost of Tsushima is not the only game that features this mode. Spider-Man in the PlayStation 4, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Red Dead Redemption 2 all have this feature as well. Well, thanks for watching. This video is sort of like a game review while drawing this awesome samurai. I thought it might be a cool idea to talk about the game while drawing the main character, because I do like to draw and play video games. Please subscribe to my channel if you like to see more drawings and me talking about them, because that's what I like to do. Until the next video, goodbye.